Well, as we inch closer to summer, 6 News is here for you all this week with what you need to know to be safe around all the water that Michigan has to offer.
Yeah, whether it's a backyard pool or a Great Lake, taking your eyes off your child for even a split second could be deadly.
Justin Creed dove into a local swim school here in mid-Michigan to find out what they're doing to make sure that kids stay out of harm's way.
This is what Hollywood tells you drowning looks like. This is what drowning really looks like. Silent, still, seconds.
They portray drowning as this big, loud, long affair where there's waving and there's yelling and there's 3 or 4 or 5 minutes where the person is in distress, when in actuality, drowning happens almost suddenly.
The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says an average of 1 in 5 people who drown are children under 14 years old. A fun day at the pool can turn deadly very fast. That's why introducing your child to the water early can save their life. Beth Dexheimer enrolls her son in swim lessons at Goldfish Swim School in Okemos. Classes for infants even as young as 4 months to teach them not to be afraid of the water. Dexheimer considers herself a decent swimmer, but says all parents should leave teaching to the experts, a bond that is created and techniques that are learned.
As a parent, I feel that it's my responsibility, obviously, not only to teach my children how to walk and how to talk and how to feed themselves, but also very important to teach them not only to swim, but to be able to save their lives.
We do get a lot of families that will come in just to swim.
Jen Smith is the general manager at Goldfish Swim School. She says teaching children when to turn over on their backs is most important, known as the rollover. Swimming forward first, taking a breath second.
Roll over onto their back, take that breath, and then roll back in and continue swimming to the other side.
The kids learn everything from getting out of the pool on their own to the breast and the backstrokes and so much more. But the first goal, Smith says, is do not panic if you fall into the water. Pratt agrees. Once you start panicking in the water, it's game over.
What happens when you panic is that your heart beats faster, you start breathing faster, and as you're hyperventilating, you're actually letting out more air than you're taking in, which makes you sink more, which is very unfortunate in a drowning situation because flotation is the key, and if you relax and take a nice deep breath, fill your lungs up with air, your chances of floating are much, much greater.
Summer in Michigan is short enough, but being surrounded by lakes increases the danger. Smith says it's the summer months when you want to keep your child in swim lessons.
It's actually the best time to have them enrolled because they will be practicing those skills outside of the pool area.
As for Dexheimer, her 2-year-old son has the skills to keep him safe should tragedy strike.
But I know without a doubt that he would be able to flip himself over and float there until somebody came to help him.
And for a loving mother, that's all that matters. In Okemos, Justin Crease, 6 News.
Justin, thank you. We've got a lot of resources for you to get swimming lessons for you or your children. Just click on the Scene on 6 section at WLNS.com. All right. Well, we continue our special reports on water safety tips that you need to know to keep your family safe this summer. And yes, summer is just around the corner.
Yes, and that means lots of people are thinking about finally getting their pools open. But before you get your pool party ready, you need to know about how to gear it up to be safer.
Yeah, our Alicia Bergeron is here for you now with advice from experts on what steps you can take for a safer summer in the water.
Swimming is a fun and popular activity that everyone loves to do in the summertime, especially at the home of pool owners.
We have a lot of activity in the summer.
For approximately 12 years, Chuck Nobis has run his backyard pool.
It makes for a very enjoyable time.
With 2 grandkids under the age of 5, maintaining their safety consistently remains his #1 goal.
The children are never left unattended, and not even for a minute. You can't take that chance.
Your eyes should be on your children, even if they know how to swim, because anything can happen.
Unfortunately, children ages 1 through 4 drown in swimming pools most frequently.
Recent studies that especially adolescent males are very poor at judging their swimming ability.
But it's not because of the reason you would think.
Males overestimate their ability, not just in swimming, but in most things.
Oftentimes in pools, especially when crowded, drowning is almost disguised and often not seen.
Once a victim goes underwater, in many cases they're invisible.
That's why, according to Chris Wolf at the American Red Cross, designating someone to watch swimmers is crucial.
It's all about having people prepared for emergencies and making sure that they're aware of the dangers inherent to different areas, such as a pool or any body of water.
Teresa Sheridan, aquatics director at the Westside Community YMCA, teaches swim lessons to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students at STEM Academy.
We're trying to teach the non-swimmers and the swimmers to be safer by teaching them those real basic skills.
Basic skills such as
floating, treading water, and how to handle jumping in and swimming back to the side.
Sheridan always keeps 1 or even 2 lifeguards on deck at all times.
If you're a child, you never ever swim without adults around you.
Even for Nobis, he mentions that at his home, adult supervision is a must.
I'm really big on not letting kids be unattended.
And besides designating a person to keep an eye on swimmers, always locking gates or fences when unattended is also very important.
The fencing, the locks on the gates, you just have to be vigilant.
The more layer of protections we can put around the child, the safer that they'll be.
So whether you set up a fence surrounding your pool or just simply never lose sight of those swimming in the water, these are all things to keep in mind to stay safe before taking a dive into your swimming pool this summer. Here for you in Lansing, Alicia Bergio, 6 News.
So if you needed another reason to think about actually putting a fence around your pool, the CDC says having a 4-sided barrier around a pool instead of a 3-sided fence cuts down the risk of kids drowning by more than 80%.
Our special series of reports dealing with your water safety in the water this summer continues with an eye on what you need to know if you're headed out on a boat.
Now, the stark reality is people die in the Great Lakes every year from boating accidents. But as Joe Gebhardt shows us tonight, a simple class could make all the difference.
Well, Memorial Day is in just a couple of weeks, which some people say is the unofficial kickoff of summer fun. But before you head out to the lake, make sure you're prepared.
Reckless operation is a big concern out here on the waters, especially during like holiday weekends and things like that.
Each year, sheriff's departments across mid-Michigan offer you the chance to become boater ready.
We go over the requirements age-wise so that you're legal as far as when your kids are able to operate watercraft.
Requirements include if you were born on or after July 1st, 1996, you must take a boater safety class before you get out on the water. If you were born after 1978, it's required to take these classes if you plan on operating a jet ski. You also need to always have your registration visible and wear life jackets.
Biggest thing is don't put yourself and passengers and other boats at risk. If their safety is a major concern, you probably shouldn't be doing the operation.
At least one person dies every day on average in boater-related accidents, and that may be attributed to a number of causes, including not wearing your life jacket or being reckless on the water, which is why sheriff's deputies recommend boater safety classes, not just to get you registered, but also to stay alive.
A couple years ago, we did have a fatality of a gentleman fell off a boat, and unfortunately he was recovered, but and that happens very seldom.
Are you allowed to drink alcohol out in the water? You are, but you cannot operate. Make sure you have a designated operator to take over the vessel when you decide to do that.
Nevertheless, have fun while you stay safe. Here for you in Jackson, Joe Gebhardt, 6 News.
Welcome back, and we continue our Water Safety Week here on 6 News, and you have seen how to keep your family safe in pools and a boat out on the Great Lakes as well.
But what if you don't have a boat? Do you know what to do if a current sweeps you out into the middle of a Great Lake?
Yeah, well, we're almost halfway through the year, and the Coast Guard has already reported 12 drownings, and all of them took place in the Great Lakes.
Our Mariah Harrison took a trip to Lake Michigan and talked with one man who survived his accident in Lake Michigan and has now devoted his life to making sure that other people do too.
The currents aren't going to pull you under, they just pull you out.
Dave Benjamin is the executive director for the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. He hopes you, your family, and friends head out and enjoy the Great Lakes this summer, but with safety in mind. It was his own near-drowning experience on Lake Michigan that inspired him to start the Surf Rescue Project.
December 26, 2010, I was surfing in Lake Michigan in Portage, Indiana.
Dave says Lake Michigan waves are the best during winter. On the day of his accident, a wave caught him off guard, peaked, and threw him off his surfboard.
My nose dipped, and it catapulted me, and I landed flat on my back, got the wind knocked out of me, then the wave crashes on me.
He tried to wave for help, but friends were too far out. Tried to use his surfboard to stay afloat, but his ankle strap had snapped.
So I'm like complete panic. And all my years of swimming in Lake Michigan and swimming in pools and even Huntington Beach, California is like out the window.
Benjamin thought this was it. He would die doing the thing he loved most. He said a lot of strange thoughts went through his head, but one stood out. He remembered an old article he'd read on drowning, titled "Drowning Doesn't Look Like Drowning."
And in the article, he describes the signs of drowning as like facing shore, mouth at water level, head tilted back, climbing the ladder motion, choking or hyperventilating, gasping for air. And I realized, I'm doing all these signs of drowning.
He quickly relaxed his body and mind, floated to the surface, and flipped on his back.
Flip, float, and follow the safest path out.
Write that down. Flip, float, follow. The Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project uses those 3 words when they travel the region teaching water safety, with a heavy emphasis on floating.
Float to keep your head above water, float to conserve your energy, float to calm yourself down from the fear and panic of drowning, and then follow the safest path out of the water.
Currents and tides aren't something you have to think about while swimming in a pool, but in the Great Lakes, they should be some of the first things you think about. There are 3 to keep in mind. A longshore current runs parallel with a sandbar or a beach.
Oftentimes what we'll have is a longshore current that will be pushing into the pier, and then it goes out. And that's like the worst case scenario that someone could get in. So
why is that the worst one?
Well, it's going to go out the entire length of the pier. So unless there's somebody who's on the pier who could throw you a throw ring and pull you in, you're going out for the long ride.
Dave just explained how a longshore current can feed into what's called a structural current, mostly found near piers. Dave says a majority of drownings in the Great Lakes happen near piers. To get out of one, you'll have to swim away from the pier and out of the structural current running alongside it.
The longshore current can feed into a rip current.
You might be familiar with this one.
Our waves are coming up on the shore. They're going to rise up the beach, and then they're going to recede,
possibly carrying you or your child out with them. Even the most experienced swimmers have trouble with riptides, but remember, the longer you can stay at the surface, the higher your chance for survival. And when in doubt, flip, float, and follow the safest path out. Here for you in St. Joseph's, Mariah Harrison, 6 News.
Welcome back. This month on 6 News, we have taken the time to look into water safety, and for good reason. Michigan has more coastlines, lakes, rivers, ponds, and Great Lakes than almost any state in the country.
So really being safe in, near, and on the water is an absolute necessity.
An absolute life or death necessity. So tonight we're here for you as I highlight and reinforce the important key points so that everybody stays safe. Michigan. What would our state be without water? From the Great Lakes to inland lakes and ponds to backyard swimming pools. Unfortunately, those waters can be deadly. But it's not just the big lakes that pose a threat. So do smaller lakes, swimming pools, ponds, rivers, and even being on a boat. So what are the main things to remember when it comes to water safety? First, safety experts say have a healthy respect for water and its power. All right, well, those are some of the main reminders to stay safe in and around the water. And we've also got something else that could save lives,
That's
Sherry.
right. It's this. It's called the Lifeguard Lanyard. And here's how it works. Really, it clears up any confusion because whomever is wearing this is the person who's responsible for watching the kids.
Right, so important to keep eyes on them. And it's got some safety tips right on the back for you, how many kids are there and whether they've got water buddies or not.
That's right, Jen. You know, it really helps to make sure that anyone who needs a life jacket gets one, and to make sure that kids know to tell an adult when they go in and out of the water.
And it makes sure, too, that kids know to get out of the water when that whistle attached to this is blown, because this whistle is all attached.
Now, we do have 1,000 of these Lifeguard lanyards, and we've distributed them to pool supply companies and other businesses all across mid-Michigan.
Take a look. These are the names right there. It's cities on your screen. To get one of these, all you have to do is go there and ask for one because they are free.